It is time for Just Five, first Just Five of 2026, and we get big news coming right out of the block. So here is 5 minutes on the re-entry and the reinstatement of Brooks Koepka. And let's talk about this in the grand scheme of things, because there are a lot of words that get tossed around, especially when it comes to sports. And one of the words is fair or fairness. Fairness is not black and white. There are degrees of fairness. The more appropriate word that I think should be used and applied when it comes to whether it's the application of rules or reinstatements or calls is equitable. Was this equitable? And to me, it's about as equitable as it could be. But the other bigger point is the idea that how could he do this? And this sounds glib. He can do it because he's Brooks Koepka. And when I say because he's Brooks Koepka, and here's what he brings with him. He brings 5 major championships. He brings a profile of a player that very few have. And the truth is that in sports, and in this sport, golf, how many really sell tickets? Most people go to events, whether it's the NFL playoffs. Look, that's a different beast. You're not necessarily going to watch one person. You're going for the experience. You're going for the totality of it. And really the PGA Tour exemplifies that and represents that as much as anybody. The only person who's ever really driven in the last quarter century people to be motivated to go to watch a golf tournament, to possibly see one person, is the one person who really doesn't play much anymore. But there are a handful of other players, and Brooks Koepka is among them, who can drive interest, whether it is driving interest to be motivated to get on StubHub and buy a ticket and walk around and maybe see him hit a handful of golf shots. And the other part of this is, well, he made all that money. He shouldn't be allowed to come back and suffer no consequences. Well, there are a lot of people, including some of the best players in the world, who think that him going alone was enough of the consequence, because it wasn't like he went into total anonymity. But the truth is that the traction that LIV has or hasn't gained is one of the reasons why I think that he wants to come back, in addition to the fact that it never vibed with him. So fairness, every player has a certain rank and file on the PGA Tour. But the truth is, that applies to every locker room as well, in Major League Baseball, in the National Football League, in the National Basketball Association. If you think that LeBron James plays by the sin, I'm not saying that Brooks Koepka is LeBron, but go down a peg or two, whether it's Kevin Durant or Steph Curry, whatever that top echelon is, they play by different rules. And it's not that you're going, well, he's playing favorites. No. They play the most minutes because they're the best players, and they get leeway because they're the most valuable. Look, there are players that have been given lifetime bans in various sports. And you know what those players do? Because some of them have been among the best players we've ever seen. Some of them now have not 1, but 2 jobs talking about the sport that they were banned from life on television. Alex Rodriguez. That's what happens. And that's what's happened here. But Brooks Koepka doesn't come back without any penalty. $5 million, when you look across the landscape of sports, that's a lot of money to play for a penalty for re-entry. In addition, and I'm not going to start talking about the high-end potential player equity program that he might sacrifice somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $85 million. I love when people start talking about valuations of companies and stuff like this. I have no earthly idea what that number could be. In all likelihood, it's going to be millions of dollars, but this 50 to 85, I ain't going there. But where I am going is agreeing that the PGA Tour did something smart, did something equitable. And if you want to argue fairness, God, you're going to get blue in the face, because there ain't no black and white about it. And fairness, as it applies to sports and specifically in golf, that is like chasing windmills. It don't exist. He's back, and the product is stronger. And in the end, that's all that matters.